Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to tackle something that I know a lot of people have been thinking about AI and the future of work. That question in the back of your mind. Is a robot going to take my job? Well, we've got a ton of research on that very question, and we're going to break it all down.
Yeah, it's a valid concern, especially when you see these projections, like 45 million American jobs potentially being automated by 2030.
45 million. That's a lot of jobs.
Yeah.
But, our research suggests it's not just like manual tasks or repetitive tasks that are at risk
All
here.
right.
AI is getting more and more capable of handling complex tasks, the kind of stuff that we associate with, strategic thinking and decision making.
Right, like financial analysis, for example.
Mm.
We're already seeing AI tools that can go through mountains of data and like identify trends and even make investment recommendations. So, that kind of automation could really change the role of traditional financial analysts.
So it's not just the factory worker or the cashier who needs to be worried now. Even those high-level white-collar jobs are starting to feel the heat. So I guess this is where this whole idea of like AI-proof careers comes in.
Exactly. The research points to jobs that require really human skills, things like empathy and creativity and a deep understanding of human needs. I mean, can you imagine an AI therapist or like an AI choreographer?
Now that you mention it, it does seem like there are some areas where AI just kind of falls short. But why is that? I mean, AI is getting so advanced. Is it really impossible for it to learn things like empathy or creativity?
It's a really interesting question. Current AI is great at pattern recognition and processing data, but things like empathy and creativity, they require emotional intelligence and an understanding of human experience that AI just hasn't figured out yet. It's not just about, crunching numbers. It's about understanding all those little cues, the unspoken emotions, and the context that shapes human interaction.
Okay, so there's hope for us humans yet. But let's get practical for a second. If you're listening to this and you're starting to feel a little uneasy about your job security, what advice does the research offer?
First, don't panic. The key is adaptation. We have to be proactive, not reactive.
So learning new technologies, upskilling, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also recognizing the value of those human-centric skills we were just talking about. Even as things get more and more automated, those skills are going to be in high demand, things like empathy, communication, and problem solving.
That makes sense. If AI is taking over the tasks that can be automated, it frees us up to focus on those uniquely human aspects of work, the things that require intuition and creative thinking and building relationships. But, knowing this and actually adapting are two different things. Where do you even begin?
One suggestion from the research is to start getting familiar with AI tools. Understanding how these tools work can help you use them to actually make you more productive instead of seeing them as a threat. AI isn't the enemy. It can actually be a powerful ally if you learn how to use it, right?
So instead of being afraid of AI, we should be trying to understand it,
Well,
learn from it, even collaborate with it. That's a big shift in mindset for a lot of people, I think.
mm,
But it does make sense. I mean, throughout history, we've always adapted to new technologies.
mm.
This is just the next chapter in that story.
Exactly. And just like those previous chapters, this one's going to create both challenges and opportunities. The key is to stay informed, stay curious, and be adaptable.
All right, so we've talked about the impact of AI on like those strategic roles and the importance of human skills. But let's get specific. What jobs are actually at risk here? What does the research say about industries that are likely to see the biggest changes?
Well, as we might expect, industries that are really reliant on repetitive tasks are probably the most vulnerable, like retail, for example.
Hmm.
Think about order pickers, cashiers, stock clerks. Those roles are already being automated in a lot of places.
Yeah, you see those self-checkout kiosks everywhere now. And I imagine the same thing's happening with things like data entry and tax preparation. Jobs that involve a lot of data processing and predictable steps.
Exactly. And the speed that AI can do these tasks is just mind-blowing. Think about a machine learning algorithm that can process thousands of tax returns in the time it takes a human to do one. The efficiency is pretty undeniable.
Okay, so those make sense. But the research also mentions some less obvious ones too, right? Like travel agents and legal secretaries. That seems a little surprising. What's the logic there?
Well, it comes down to the rise of these AI-powered platforms that can do a lot of the tasks that those roles used to do. For travel agents, think about online booking sites that can search through tons of flights and hotels to find the best deals. For legal secretaries, imagine AI tools that can draft basic legal documents or manage schedules and communication.
So even jobs that require some level of human interaction and
Uh-huh.
specialized knowledge are starting to feel the pressure. It's honestly a little unsettling to think about.
Yeah.
But I guess that's why we're doing this deep dive, to help people understand what's coming and how to prepare for it.
Exactly. And preparing means understanding not only the jobs that are at risk, but also the ones that are going to thrive in this new environment.
Which brings us back to those human-centric skills, right? The things AI just can't replicate,
Right.
at least not yet.
Right. It's not just about surviving, it's about thriving. Imagine a world where AI is doing all those mundane tasks and it frees us up to focus on the things that really inspire us, the things that require human ingenuity and compassion. That's the real potential here, and that's what we need to be working toward.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive.
Right.
We've talked about the scope of AI disruption, the idea of AI-proof careers, and even gotten into some of the specific industries that are likely to see big changes. It's a lot to take in, but we're just getting started. In part two, we're going to shift our focus to a place where AI has the potential to have a really big impact, the classroom. Get ready for some serious food for thought, because we're going to be diving deep into the potential benefits and drawbacks of AI in education.
Welcome back. Before we move on, I just wanted to say, if anybody out there is feeling a little overwhelmed by all this talk of AI, you're not alone. It's a lot to process. But that's exactly why we're having this conversation, to, break it all down and make it a little less scary.
Yeah, I think that's important to acknowledge. It's easy to get caught up in all the hype or the fear around AI. But, when you really get down to it, it's just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad.
Yeah.
It all depends on us.
Right. And speaking of using AI, one area where we're seeing a lot of interesting stuff happening is in education. Imagine a classroom where AI is being used to personalize learning for every student.
Okay, that sounds kind of cool, but I have to admit, AI in the classroom gives me some pretty sci-fi vibes. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, think about it like this. Every student learns a little differently, right? Some are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some people need more hands-on experience. But in a traditional classroom, it's almost impossible for one teacher to meet all those different needs. So that's where AI comes in. AI algorithms can analyze data about each student's learning style. They can track their progress, identify areas where they're struggling, and then tailor the lessons to fit those needs. It's like having a personal tutor for every kid available 24/7.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
No more one-size-fits-all teaching. Every student gets a learning experience designed just for them. But what about the teacher? Does this mean we're going to replace teachers with robots?
Not at all. In fact, a lot of experts think AI will actually free up teachers to do what they do best, inspiring students, encouraging creativity, and building those human connections we talked about earlier. I mean, think about it. If AI can handle things like grading and feedback and even some basic instruction, that gives teachers more time to mentor students, to lead discussions, and to design really engaging learning experiences.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be a game changer. But I'm also wondering about the downsides. Our research did mention some concerns about AI in education. What are those?
One of the big ones is critical thinking. AI is great at delivering information and assessing basic comprehension, but some experts worry that it could lead to students being more passive in their learning, where they're just absorbing information without really thinking critically about it. We don't want to create a generation of students who are just good at memorizing facts but can't think for themselves right.
Right. Critical thinking is more important now than ever. We're
Yeah.
bombarded with information from all sides, and we need to be able to filter through it, analyze it, and come to our own conclusions. If AI is just feeding us information, that's not really helping us develop those critical thinking skills.
And then there's the social interaction aspect. Education isn't just about learning facts, it's also about learning how to interact with other people, to collaborate, to build relationships, and to navigate, the messiness of human communication. AI can help with some online collaboration, but it can't really replace the rich social dynamics of a real classroom.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
There's something about being in a room with other people, bouncing ideas off of each other, working through disagreements, and learning to compromise. Those are important life skills that you don't necessarily get from interacting with a computer program.
And of course, we can't forget about data privacy. With AI systems collecting all this information about students, their grades, their learning styles, even their online activity, there are some valid concerns about how that data is being used, who has access to it, and whether it's being protected properly.
That's a huge issue.
Yeah.
We need to be sure that student privacy is being respected and that this technology is being used ethically and responsibly. It's not just about the potential benefits. It's about making sure that those benefits outweigh the risks.
Right. And that's going to require a lot of careful thought, open discussion, and collaboration between educators, policymakers, and tech developers. We need to have a good understanding of the ethical implications of AI in education and make sure that we're putting the right safeguards in place.
So it sounds like AI in education is kind of a double-edged sword.
Hmm.
On the one hand, there's this huge potential to personalize learning, improve efficiency, and free up teachers to focus on higher-level tasks. But on the other hand, there are some very real concerns about critical thinking, social interaction, and data privacy. How do we find a balance? What's the key to using AI in a way that benefits students without undermining those fundamental human elements of education?
I think it comes down to being intentional. We have to be very clear about our goals for using AI in education. What are we hoping to achieve? What are the potential benefits and what are the potential risks? Once we've thought through those questions, then we can start to think about how to design and implement these systems in a way that's aligned with our values and our priorities.
So it's not just about throwing technology at the problem. It's about using it thoughtfully and strategically to make the learning experience better without sacrificing those core values of education that we hold dear.
Exactly. And that's going to require a change in mindset for some people. We need to move away from this idea that AI is here to replace teachers and start thinking about it as a tool that can empower teachers to do their jobs even better.
I love that AI is a tool for empowerment. It's not about replacing human connection, it's about enhancing it. But that brings up another question. How do we prepare students for this new world? If AI is going to be a bigger part of their lives, both in and out of school, what skills do they need to thrive in this new landscape?
As we've discussed, those human skills, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, and empathy, those are going to be more important than ever. Those are the skills that AI can't replicate, and they're the ones that will be in high demand in any field, no matter how much automation happens.
So it's not just about teaching students how to code or use AI tools.
Mhm.
It's about developing those essential human qualities that will allow them to be adaptable, resilient, and successful in any career they choose.
Right. And it's also about fostering a lifelong love of learning. The world is changing faster than ever before, and the only way to keep up is to be constantly learning, growing, and adapting. We need to give students the skills and the mindset to embrace that change and see it as an exciting opportunity rather than something to be afraid of.
I think that's a really empowering message. AI might be changing the game, but it's not game over. It's just
Yeah.
a new level. And it's up to us to play that level in a way that benefits everyone.
That's a good way to put it. We can't predict the future, but we can prepare for it. And by embracing the potential of AI while also remembering those core human values, I think we can create a future where technology and humanity work together to build a better world.
That's a vision worth working towards. So we've talked a lot about AI in education, the potential and the challenges, but I want to zoom out for a minute and look at the bigger picture.
Hmm.
What does all of this mean for society as a whole? How is this AI revolution going to change the way we live, work, and interact with each other?
That's a great question, and that's actually what we'll be looking at in the final part of our deep dive. We're going to step back and consider the broader societal implications of AI, the ethical considerations, and the potential long-term consequences of this technological shift.
Welcome back. It feels like we've covered so much already, from how AI could change entire industries to the ethical questions around using it in schools. But as we wrap up, I find myself thinking less about the details and more about the big picture. What does this AI revolution really mean for society? How is it going to affect our lives beyond just our jobs or our education?
It's a big question. It's not just about technology changing, it's about society transforming. AI has the potential to change everything about our world, from how we talk to each other to how we govern ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. But can you break that down a bit? What do you mean by changing everything? Like, what are some real-world examples of how that might actually happen?
Think about healthcare. We're already seeing AI being used to look at medical images and diagnose diseases and even come up with personalized treatments. Imagine AI that can spot cancer super early, or predict when diseases are going to spread, or even give you health advice based on your DNA.
Wow, that's amazing. It sounds like AI could completely change healthcare.
Right.
But what are the downsides? I mean, there's already a lot of talk about bias and algorithms, especially in healthcare.
That's a really important point. Bias in AI is a serious issue. If the data used to train those algorithms is biased, then the AI will be biased too. And that can lead to some really unfair or even harmful outcomes. Like, if a facial recognition algorithm is mostly trained on white faces, it might not be as good at recognizing people of color.
So it's not enough to just build these amazing AI tools. We have to make sure that they're built and used fairly so that everyone has equal access.
Exactly. And that means paying attention to data privacy, being transparent about how the algorithms work, and constantly checking for bias and fixing it.
Okay, so healthcare is one area where AI can have a big impact. What about other parts of society, like how we govern ourselves?
Some people think AI could really help improve governments. Imagine systems that can analyze tons of data to find corruption or predict social unrest, or even help design better policies.
That sounds promising.
Hmm.
But it also makes me wonder about power. If governments have these powerful tools, how do we make sure they don't use them for surveillance or to stop people from speaking out?
Those are valid concerns. Using AI in government brings up a lot of ethical and political questions that we really need to talk about. We have to think about things like accountability, transparency, and making sure people still have a say in how they're governed.
So it's not just about the technology. It's about the social and ethical and political parts of it, too. It's about how we as a society choose to use these tools and what kind of world we want to create.
Exactly. This is a huge turning point in history. We're at the beginning of something that could change the course of civilization. It's our responsibility to decide what kind of future we want to build.
That's a pretty big thought. And it kind of feels overwhelming. Like, where do we even start?
I think it starts with education. Everyone needs to understand the basics of AI, how it works, and what it can do. We need to take the mystery out of it and help people have informed conversations about how it's developed and used.
So AI literacy for all, I like that.
Hmm.
But it's not just about understanding the technology, right? It's also about understanding the ethical stuff, the potential for bias, and the bigger picture of how it affects society.
Absolutely. We need to be having these conversations everywhere in schools, in businesses, in government. We need to figure out how to design and use AI in a way that reflects our values and priorities as a society.
I agree. We can't just leave these decisions to the tech companies or the politicians. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of AI.
Exactly. One of the most important things we can do is to encourage critical thinking and healthy skepticism about technology. We need to be able to evaluate information and question assumptions and consider different points of view. We can't just blindly trust what technology promises. We need to think carefully about how we use it in our lives.
You know, as you're talking, I'm realizing this isn't just about AI. It's about how we deal with any new technology or big change. It's about being informed and engaged and taking an active role in shaping the world we want to live in.
I agree. It's about understanding that technology doesn't control our destiny. It's a tool, and we get to decide how to use it.
Well said. We've really dug deep into AI. In this deep dive, we've looked at how it could change our world, the challenges and risks, and how important it is to develop and use AI ethically. What's your final thought for our listeners? What do you hope they take away from this?
If I could leave you with just one thing, it would be this. The future of AI is not set in stone. We're creating that future right now with every choice we make, every conversation, every action we take. It's a future we can shape. So let's choose to shape it wisely, ethically, and with a commitment to making life better for everyone on this planet.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI. It's been a fascinating journey, and I hope you're leaving feeling informed and ready to be part of the conversation about the future we're building together. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep shaping the world you want to see.